Welcome to the Quantum Empath. I'm your host, Kelly Michelle, intuitive guide, alchemist, and reality hacker. This is a space where esoteric knowledge, ancient wisdom, personal development, and quantum physics meet to help you shift your frequency, break old patterns, and step into the life your soul came here to live. Let's expand your awareness, upgrade your energy, and create your dream reality, one episode at a time. Let's begin. Hi, it's been a minute. The thing is, I made an agreement with myself and my higher self when my guide said, you need to share your voice far and wide. And I said, I don't like that idea. That's scary. I said, I have no idea what I would talk about. And my guides said, we will tell you what to talk about. Don't you worry. Just start the podcast. So as an avid podcast listener, I do feel like it is my duty to contribute some information into the field because so many people that I have listened to along the way have been instrumental in my journey. I know if you are listening to this that you are likely a curious person. You are somebody who enjoys learning and exploring ideas. So if you are here, thank you. The thing that struck me last night was that somebody who is a creator on TikTok has a fairly big channel, and I don't remember her name, but she had posted something about how challenging it can be once you escape the matrix. When you're the person in your group of friends and family who start to realize that it's all just a big show and that all these systems are rigged, there's never any consequences to anybody's actions. And they're printing money. They're keeping humanity stuck in this kind of lack scarcity mindset, selling us on fear, pitting us against each other. And I think more and more people are like, whoa, hold on. What happened? Why am I told this, but over here they're doing this? There's so many double standards, right? I'll tell you where I saw through a lie or a narrative was when the vaccines came out and everybody was all excited to take this thing, Operation Warp Speed. Well, as somebody who was previously in the military, and I went down a lineup of guns that they were shooting vaccines into me, and I remember feeling incredibly sick, and my arms hurt. It was awful. And I don't even know at this point what I was given, but I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm good for life. But one of the narratives, there were lots of narratives that I thought were fishy. One was, you used to get a vaccine for you to protect yourself from other people. And then I saw a narrative change that was, you get this to protect other people from you. And I was like, what? That's not how it worked. You would get a vaccine for the flu so you didn't get the flu, not so that you didn't give the flu to someone else, because if they have the vaccine, it should work, right? That's what I saw. And a lot of people didn't see that. And so I was trying to share information, but I was looked at as the one who was the asshole. I was the jerk because I wasn't getting it to protect myself. But that was a long time ago. I think that there's been a lot of fallout from that. Let's just say that I don't keep tabs on it. I did for years. I lived in a very deep, dark hole of research and looking at side effects and all these people dying suddenly. And then I was seeing they just came out with this diagnosis. They started calling it SADS, sudden adult death syndrome. And I'm like, I'm realizing that this vaccine is hurting people and things are really gloomy. And I wish they wouldn't be doing this. But then SADS and then SIDS. And then I'm like, what about sudden infant death syndrome? And is there a correlation between vaccines and babies and then adults and vaccines? And, I just started putting all these pieces of the puzzle together. And one of the things I woke up to when my kids were little was on Valentine's Day. They came home and they were train wrecks. They were moody. They were having temper tantrums. And I was like, what is going on here? And I don't know, I intuitively felt like I needed to do research on the symptoms that they were presenting and read food coloring. Why did I intuitively know to research that? And I thought, oh my God, this stuff is horrible for my kids. And I got really into reading ingredients and whole foods. And I was really angry about all the ingredients they were putting into our products. And I would spend hours reading labels and scanning labels and researching and spending a lot of extra money to get organic. And it was something that, let's just say, it was exhausting. It would take me 3 hours to grocery shop. And then it was expensive and I wanted to support local farmers. And I was doing my best for as long as I could. But then the family dynamic started changing. We had decided that I would go back to work. I still wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but I agreed to go back to work as a housekeeper. And I started my own business. And because I had gone down this rabbit hole of toxins in our cleaning products and our candles and our clothing and our food, I wanted to start a natural cleaning company that used less toxic products. So I was adamant that the reason my son had diabetes was all these toxins. So I did that business for 9 years. A lot of people, I don't think they cared that I used non-toxic because they would have cabinets full of toxins. So a lot of the clients that I worked for, I think they just liked me. And then there were others who really appreciated the no fragrance, the more gentle products that I used. So I loved it. I listened to podcasts. I spent hours every day learning. So I learned early on about certain relationship dynamics. And after my divorce, what could I do to do things differently? Because at the time, I was somebody who had blamed everything on my ex-husband. I wanted to blame him for not appreciating me. I wanted to blame him for telling me I needed to go back to work. I wanted to blame him for me being the primary caretaker of the kids. I mean, it was just, I wanted to blame. And in hindsight, that was just me being an incomplete version of myself and expecting somebody else to carry the weight of the parts of me that were missing. I started to see the way that I've let other people validate me. In 2020, the year that everything changed, my business was put into shutdown mode. I had been on a path of, I had an employee, I was looking at buying a company car, and I was really listening to a lot of podcasts about expanding my cleaning business and how I could grow and service others and this and that. And when I was forced to shut my business down, I had to terminate my employee, and I didn't know what to do with myself. I couldn't just sit around all day, and I was used to activity. So what I would do is I would just go outside and I would walk and walk and walk and walk all day long. I started hiking. I started finding heart rocks everywhere I went. I started an Instagram channel with heart rocks. I started finding other hearts, and it was just like a fun little hobby thing. But the synchronicities were pretty undeniable, and it felt like the more I focused on myself, the less I was willing to give away my time to somebody that didn't value it. I started learning to love myself. I started listening to subliminals. I started listening to affirmations. I started listening to podcasts that focused on personal development. So I went through a whole personal growth phase, and I started developing an awareness around where I was outsourcing myself to others. I was a people pleaser. I was a doormat. I didn't have boundaries. I gave away my time and energy to people who didn't reciprocate. And I started seeing a pattern, and I realized, oh, maybe there's a common denominator, and maybe the common denominator is me. And it took a really big punch in the gut for someone that I thought, oh, I'm just crazy about him. I love him so much. Well, because he gave me like little crumbs. He was a breadcrumber. He would not take me out on dates. He would come over, we would hang out, we would mess around, and then he would leave. And every once in a while, he would breadcrumb me into, oh, let's go on a hike. I'd be like, oh my God, But he gave me Wednesdays, he gave me Mondays, but Fridays, Saturdays, those were reserved for his dating profiles that he was still on, and I was totally cool with it. I'm like, I get it. Well, it took a big punch in the gut from him to tell me that he found his unicorn. And I was like, there's no such things as unicorns. I don't know, but I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm done. So anyhow, I took a break from all of that rigmarole and I wrote down all the things that I truly wanted in someone. And I literally did manifest that person into my life. And it was an experiment that I was like, well, they say write it all out and boom, here's this person. And it's a really special relationship. I will tell you that. It's a very special relationship. There's a lot of love there. But that's not where I was going with this podcast today. This is about waking up to the lies, going into the dark night of the soul, the deep research, the finding out about the darkness, and that you can heal from all of it and rewrite your story, which is what I've done. I've done all the work, and it's taken me years, but I've also launched a brick and mortar business. I've invested my retirement into a harmonic egg. I've been open for 7 months now, and I have, because I'm such a deep researcher and a deep experimenter, I have done so many sessions where I'm just blown away. Every time I do a session, I'm blown away. And I think one of the things that I leave out of the 3-minute stories that I can put on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube is that I am somebody who has to experiment to truly know. And so while I was in my self-love phase, I had upgraded from this little 2-bedroom apartment with my kids to a brand new low-income apartment that was 3 bedrooms, all nice and new. It was a great transition for us, but I had longed for living in a house, and I kept saying I would love to live in a shitty little house on a big piece of land. And I kid you not, I found it. And it happened to be right next door to my son's best friend. And I swear, every time I would take him to see his friend, I would think, God, I love this area. I love this area. So I was able to get really clear on a vision. And I'm like, whoa, how's this showed up for me? This must be for me. This must be from God. And it was $700 more than what I was currently paying. And I just asked my higher self, I was like, what do I do? And it was a hard yes. You have to move. You have to take a chance. You have to do it. I picked up a couple more cleaning clients. But because this house had this own little separate entrance and a little room off the back, I turned that into my reception area. I had a little breezeway you walk through, a little room in the back where I did my sound healings. I was doing emotion code and biofield tuning and Reiki and the sound bowls, the sound healing. And I was getting one-offs. It was my evening and weekend hobby, but I saw a trend, and the trend was the people who find me are my peers. These people that would find me are freaking magical. Typically, they are either people who have been the empaths, who have been absorbing people's stuff in their energetic field for their entire lives, and they've needed to cleanse it and learn how to cleanse it and how to not absorb everybody's stuff. There were the people who would come in, they were super open as kids. They shut it all down because it wasn't accepted in the family, and then now they're opening back up to their gifts, and they're like, what the fuck do I do? Like, I am literally seeing this, from aliens to spirit to people on the other side. And people might be hearing voices coming in their head, and people might be seeing or tasting colors. I mean, it's just so interesting how much stuff is happening to people behind closed doors, and they're not comfortable talking about it. They don't have anybody to talk to because they've gone maybe through their dark night of the soul. They've been in isolation doing deep research. You're like climbing out of that, trying to figure out which way's up in the world. What's true? What's true anymore? We don't know. I know my truths, and I know the research that I've done and the conclusions that I've come to, but I also do not promote, talk about, or hang my hat on. I don't hang my hat on anything, because what do I truly know except for what I've experienced with my own two eyes? So I remember going through my dark night of the soul really alone. I was like the one in my group of friends that was the crazy one, the weirdo, the conspiracy theorist, whatever the labels. Whether you're a conspiracy theorist or you came at it from more of an activist angle, hopefully by now, if you're listening to this, you realize that, oh, those are just the polarities. Those are just the us versus them. That's the getting on the game board of realizing there's a system. And this is the biggest thing that I find that helps my clients is when they understand that if they're still playing the us versus them game, that is a trap. That is a trap to keep you stuck in the matrix. And when you realize that and you start to go back within and really get clear about who you are, and you start that healing process and you start clearing those trapped emotions, you start learning how to feel if your body's in alignment. Meditation. People go out in nature or go ride their bikes or whatever it is. My meditation is usually hiking or morning time when I'm having my coffee. Those are the times that I'll sit and script in my journal, tap into my guides, get a plan, ask questions, get answers. That's a whole thing. My automatic writing that I've been doing for years, and then reading back through those things and seeing how much of it was so spot on. Like my higher self telling my earlier me what to do. And my guides have entrusted me with this business, with this podcast, with all my different outlets that I connect with people. They've entrusted me because they know I listen. Not all the time. I do use my free will sometimes, and that's okay. We're allowed to do that. But I've also reached the point in my journey where my guides were like, you've done it. You have done the thing. And you don't have to do anything differently. And this isn't anything I've learned in a class. I've taken classes, you guys. I've taken the $27 courses. I have read books upon books, listened to hours and hours of podcasts, and until you actually put that stuff into action, it's just information. I made a reel about this yesterday, and it was because I have seen some cars cruising down the road with their blinker on, but they're not changing lanes. And the thing is, I got to a point in my Stay Tuned Soul Therapy Wellness Center where I did okay. Like the first couple months, I made some money. But it was because all my friends were supporting me, and I had sent out buy one, get one free coupons. And like the people that wanted to come came, and the ones that weren't interested didn't. And then that gave me information on, okay, these are the people that are going to support me, and these are the people that I probably will be, not seeing in the future. I had to come to terms with the fact that my housekeeping clients were not going to be my wellness center clients. I realized early on, before I opened my wellness center, I would have to release them as clients, and I would have to find new clients, because for years my housekeeping clients would confide in me. They would feel comfortable talking to me about really personal things, but then as the empath that I am, and I know I can help them, and I know I have resources that I can help them with, and they would see me as their housekeeper. And it was hard to not be taken seriously because I had all this information that could help them. And they would tell me, oh yeah, I go and get Reiki and I'm like, the reason they're not using me for these things is because they're paying someone who is identifying as that thing. And they're going to that person. And so they're paying me to be the housekeeper, not their coach, not their healer. That's not what they were paying me for. So I thought, okay, there are people out there who will pay for somebody to help them with their energy work. And I thought, well, why them? Why can't I do that? And so that had been kind of a little pain in my side for several months. So when my girlfriend said she wanted to open a harmonic egg in Reno and let's do this thing, we hired a consultant, we got our corporation, we bought all the books that we needed to read, we had come up with our website and our logo and all of that in January of 2025. And then in March, she had decided she was going to do something different. And it was really scary because I had a choice point. And this is where there's two different timelines that I could go on. And one was stay as a housekeeper and continue making $2,500 a month, but knowing that my son is going to turn 18 pretty soon and I'm going to lose some income, and knowing that I'm getting older, I'm like, I can't do this forever. I'm tired. And so I thought, well, I've been presented with this harmonic egg opportunity. We've done a lot of the legwork. And I really, at that moment, saw the divine gift that it was, because I don't believe that my friend was ever meant to stay on this journey with me. 3333 on the timer when I said that. It's because Spirit sent her to me to be somebody who would get me on this path. I'm not a risk taker. This little fireball was. Financially, she had horrible credit, but I had great credit. So we knew we would balance each other out. But the thing is I'm the one with the great credit. So I could do this, but then I thought, I just need to become the person who's fearless. And then you combine those two together, and what do you have? You create an opportunity for yourself. And so I had been told early on in my process that it would be best if I came up with the down payment myself rather than ask an investor. And that was advice that was given to me from my multimillionaire mentor that I worked for years and years, who was a tremendous supporter of planting seeds and opening my mind, if you will, to new ideas. And of course, looking back on that relationship, I see who she was. The mentor. She is a generational curse breaker herself, and she has been influential in helping me dream big. So I got to the point where I was able to tap into my retirement, pull money from my IRA. I had invested in gold and silver, so the money that I had put in there had increased. I didn't realize that at the time that I was going to do that. But the more I learned about it, the more I realized, oh, that's a program that I have to leave it there, or I'm going to have a fee. That was just my programming, and I had to get over the little things of how to use money correctly. I started looking at it like, oh, this is me investing in my future. I'm not taking away from my future. I'm investing in my future. And I did it. And I'm here 7 months in, and I have not mastered the money game. But when I do, you will know. Because my spirit guides told me the other day, I am a template of somebody who is building something from nothing. I have not taken out a bank loan. And I have a lot of credit card debt. And I have been spending my IRA. And last month when I paid my rent and it was my last little chunk of gold, I said, thank you, gold, for serving me. Thank you for being a bridge to the life of my dreams. I know my clients will find me. I know they're out there. I know they're all over the world. And the work that I do, in addition to just being a resource and hopefully somebody that you can find comfort in, or find something about this information that helps you with yours. And so I thanked my gold, and I released the fear of, now I don't have this little piece of gold anymore. And being able to thank that little chunk of metal and pay my bills is so much growth for me. And the reality is, I don't know how I'm going to do it. But my goal here is to continue taking forward action, continue to share the process, continue to support you guys where you're at on your path. And my goal would be, if you find this information helpful and you want to work with me, that you'll reach out. That's why I'm here. I have been sending remote sessions to my mom. I have sent remote sessions to some clients' families. I have sent remote sessions to my friend who has lived in Arizona and Wyoming and South Dakota and California. Wherever she goes, I send her healing. And she was in the middle of trying to sell a house. She lost her job. Her whole life is crumbling out from under her. And she's telling me, I feel weirdly calm. And she got a job the next day, which, I would have said, wait, don't take the first thing that comes along, because sometimes there's a lot of value in the crumbling. What's that dark night part? That's the dip before you rise again. That's, to me, God saying, this isn't the thing. This isn't the thing. You're supposed to be over here. Look over here. That's where I help people dream. I love to help people dream. I love to help people get really clear on what the puzzle looks like. I completed my puzzle and I had my wellness center. I had my egg. I left my cleaning business and I'm sitting there with my completed puzzle. And my guide said, that's great. You completed the puzzle. Now what are you going to do? Are you going to glue it together and hang it on the wall? Or are you going to push it all in the box? Are you going to shake it up, dump out the pieces again, knowing that you have all the pieces and you know what's possible? And you go back in and you play the game with new rules? And so I go back into the matrix and I'm interacting with my friends differently. I'm interacting with more compassion. I'm interacting with more love and authenticity of, I see them for who they are and their traumas and everything that they've gone through and how they're just trying to get through each day as best as they can. And I'm able to have compassion for my mom, who used to drive me crazy. And now I just see her as somebody who she's just doing her best. And I get it. I'm way more patient now. Because I'm like, you know what? One day I'm probably going to be there. And I'm just so grateful to have her still part of my journey. I've had so many people who don't have that. And so if you've listened this far, you are probably part of my tribe. You are probably part of the thing that is the reason why I'm even here in the first place. Because this is working through fear. This is a very vulnerable thing to do. And I'm trusting the process. I keep coughing and my throat chakra is very activated. And hopefully Spirit will let me send this out. I've had a couple podcasts I've recorded in the past couple weeks that didn't pan out because Spirit was like, that's not the message you need to be sharing today. I was trying to force something to happen. And they said, not right now. So this, I feel the divine has asked me to talk to you guys about, knowing that this is a process of waking up. The Great Awakening does not stop at the us versus them. It doesn't stop at the healing. It doesn't stop at the learning. It moves into the creating. It moves into the oneness. It moves into realizing that you create your reality and that it can be really amazing and we can create heaven on earth. And that's where I'm at with it. So, thank you for being here. I love you so much, and we'll catch you on the next episode.